So this Greater London Transport Act 1999, this is the act which they're claiming gives the Mayor of London the powers to actually put road charges, okay? It's quite a long act, but there's a lot of sections in it that don't have much in. They're just changing or modifying other acts, and then they really go to town on the road charges section, but not on the legislation part of it. In the definitions and meanings, and the definitions and meanings aren't that important actually for the terminology. But anyway, I just wanted to. So this is talking about this Greater London Authority Act 1999, which is 2001, 3 years before they actually put the congestion charge. So they must have been planning it. And I don't know if Ken Livingstone had been elected as mayor at that time. Maybe he had, but this was all definitely strategically planned. But I don't think very well. Where's that? There's a section, right? I think it's 141. So this section here, this is section 141, right? Section 141, it says that there's a legal requirement to provide economic transport, that the transport or the transport that they have has got to be economical for people. That's actually an objective they've got to do, and also uniformity. And I don't actually think this is just for public transport. I think it's all transport has got to be economical. So that means that it's not got to be really, really expensive. But it's not economical for Ulez now. If you've got a non-compliant car, which they can't take the car off you, and those cars aren't banned from the area, it's not like you're not allowed in the area with them. If you weren't allowed in the area, you would be prohibited from being in the area, and there will be barriers. You're not prohibited. You're actually just charged, right? That's not economical for anyone if that's the car they've got at all. And it's not uniform either, because you've got cars which being charged ridiculously different amounts. That's not uniform at all. I don't think he's abiding by these. This act is a very strange act. What I'd say is, I know that local councils are meant to govern themselves, and I've heard that, if they reject airports, the government can punish them, but they're meant to self-govern. They're meant to have electors, and the local people are meant to go in there and debate and argue and decide and petition and see how they want to have their local area. If there's something that the government implements, like, certain 5G, some councils might not want, 5G or British Telecom or whatever, but if the government's wants to put a major road, then I suppose they have to cooperate with it. But I really realised by reading this act that they're actually making into law legislation, rather than councils coming up with a strategy. And I don't know even how you can think of a strategy if you're meant to be selfless. If you're a council and you're selfless, I don't know where the strategy is coming from, right? And I don't know how any councillors or MPs can start petitions themselves if they're selfless, unless some of the constituents ask them to start it on their behalf, because they didn't want their name on it. I don't know. If they're selfless, maybe if someone asks them to do something, then they don't oppose it. They act for them. But they definitely got to act for a majority. I don't know I don't think really that MPs and councillors should be doing petitions themselves, but everyone's got the right to petition, but they're meant to be selfless. I don't know how they would start the petition themselves if they're selfless, unless they're asked to do it. If a particular constituent says, will you start a petition for me so I can collect some signatures, then it doesn't mean that the MP is himself supporting it, but if he started it for you, then all the signatures on it are that support it. I'd give them that. That could be selfless, because then they're like serving you like a doctor writing a prescription out. If you ask the doctor for, like if he drafts it for you and prepares it and he puts his name as the MP on it, all he's doing is you ask him, and then you could just go around and collect loads of signatures on it. That could be selfless. I'll give them that. But some people might see it as, well, it's their petition, they're petitioning for it if it's their name on it. There's lots to say about the petition committee as well, but everything that I've watched in the videos is in favour of my basis for us having the privileges and protection, and once it's published on the website, really on the petition committee website, and you're pursuing it, you've got warrant to pursue that cause, because it's live, it's been accepted. So why can't you read that anywhere? Well, you need to know what's going on and what it is. If you don't know what the petition is, it's when a police officer, when you ring up a police officer and they come and interview you, they don't talk about an affidavit, do they? And when you go into court and give evidence, no one said the word affidavit. They don't mention it, right? So, this call it a crime report, it's, there's no-brainer stuff. It's almost kind of like walking down the road and, saying, what do you walk with? And you say, my shoes. And then you say, but, you don't mention your feet. But it's obvious that you got feet because you're walking with shoes on, It's like, you say, I walk with, what you're doing, I'm walking to the shop, right? But you're also travelling, but you don't say you're travelling, you say I'm walking. Well, are you travelling to the, yeah, I'm travelling there. Well, it's like, well, it's like, I'm doing a petition to the government and I've got to collect this evidence and to prove this case. And then, what are you doing such in this house? Well, are you allowed to do that? Well, yeah, I've got warrant for it. Well, it doesn't say warrant on there. Well, when an authority authorises you to run a case, they've given warrant for it. That's it. I mean, there's a lot of. I think the police are playing dumb. I don't think that they're that stupid. I think that they're just pretending to be really stupid. But I might be wrong. And the CPS are meant to be cleverer, so they're even pretending to be even more stupid. Particularly when you get like an affidavit from 1837, and you put it next to a petition to the House of Commons from 1621, and look, the writing on it is the form of it is literally identical, and this is like the same thing. Well, pretty much, yeah. And then it says at the top of the affidavit, it's actually called, it's a complaint. I'm complaining that someone stole my jumper. Oh, it's a complaint. Well, what, have you got a grievance with them? Yes, that's it. I'm complaining to the government, that the taxes are too high, and now I'm complaining that someone stole something, and I humbly showeth that, But anyway, trying to come back to Ulez now rather than the actual petitioning part of it. Is Ulez illegal? Well, I actually think it is. I actually think the mayor of London is actually failing to. They've actually made it in law, so they've got to legally strategise, and they've got to legally strategise to reduce traffic, but they've also got to legally strategise to do other things. But that's quite in conflict with here. It says they've got to provide. Make sure transport's economical. So they've got a bit of conflict there. I think Khan really is trying to reduce traffic and follow directives, but he's not doing it economically. He's making it the opposite of economical. So I don't know why he's writing books and saying that he's proud of doing it. He's actually breaking the law here. This law is actually, it's quite ridiculous because they've made out there's a new mayor and he can decide all these things, and now he's in control of London. And they say, "Oh, it's none of the government's business, and Parliament aren't doing anything." What I've noticed in this act is it's actually giving quite a lot of orders to the mayor. Like, you are going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, you've got to do this and that. So it's not like, oh, you become the mayor of London and you can do what you want. What I realised through this act is it's like there's an agenda. There's actually, so that's that, and an agenda is not democratic, because in politics with democratic and voting, you can actually do what you want. This act for London, it's looking like what if everyone in London wanted to not reduce traffic? It doesn't seem like they can do it because they've set it in law that you've got to try and reduce traffic, but also it's got to be economical. Well, Stop Ulez is not economical, I can tell you that. It's actually ripping them off, and also financially, it's distressing, not a burden, distressing. This is almost like banning smoking. Let's make smoking illegal, but then some people could make the laws like, oh, well, we will make smoking legal, because you're meant to be able to. The whole point in this government in the Western world is meant to be that, the laws can be whatever the people want, right? But at the moment, this whole Mayor of London, Transport for London thing, it's like, can you imagine if you had a law that said the mayor will, reduce smoking, right? But if you haven't made smoking illegal, then you can still do it. But he's got to reduce it. But right, let me try and think of an example. Can you imagine? This is a different example. Can you imagine if they put an act into the legislation, right, of how London's going to be running acts of law? The mayor must reduce free speech. Can you imagine that if they put that in an act of law? The mayor must comply with the strategy to come up with strategies to reduce freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and reduce rights and liberties, and strategies to do that. Well, it seems like that's what Kamala Harris is doing, But just a minute, what happens if you want to change the law? So it's not that. Well, if they're trying to reduce it, if they're trying to reduce your free speech and reduce your freedom of expression, then you're going to have a hard time if the government have made it into a law that the mayor's got to take it away from you. Although we've got a right to make and change this law here, but it seems like that they're setting all the laws to take away your ability to free speech to get the laws changed. That's just an example. It's kind of like setting a series of laws that are pushing everyone in a certain direction, where even if they politically want to go the opposite way, it's very difficult, even though they're saying, no, it's for the environment or whatever. But anyway, I still think that they're breaking the law where I highlighted it there in blue, because it's not economical. It's made it actually unaffordable, if not extortionate, and actually causing distress and harm to people. It's actually financially a burden and actually a nightmare. So I actually think that he's breaking this part of the law for this act, and that's. Then these are all the repeals. So firstly, if you want to start charging in London, right, you've got to repeal that Magna Carta clause, right? And they haven't. So you've got to repeal that Magna Carta clause, the ancient liberties of London, and they haven't repealed that. Whether they can or not is a good question, but Elizabeth II seems to claim that she's repealed privileges of the peers in the 1967 Criminal Law Act, which she'll have a hard time doing that when the Speaker is opening Parliament with all of the ancient rights and liberties into effect. So that's funny. So we know that, this actually isn't even as bad as that, because they haven't even repealed. I mean, it would have been amusing if I'd have scrolled down this and I'd have seen like the Great Charter, Ancient Liberties of London repealed. Then it would have been attempting to be convincing, like Elizabeth with, Lord's privileges, right? But this is, they haven't even tried to repeal that, because I don't think that they wanted to people to cotton on to it or realise that they're cheaters. But anyway, so they haven't repealed that, so that's major, because it's still a law that exists. It's really serious. It says you can't do this, and it's still in effect, right? Now, where's the... All right, this is to do with... There's a lot of... like, we know when we were talking about Judge Swift, and he was the one who heard the case for Ulez, while that petition was going on, while that Petitioners Committee debate around that time is when that Swift case was, I think. Now, when I found out it was Swift and he's been appointed to the Boundary Commission, and then I heard that he used to work in the finance for the government. Now, this is very interesting, because this act, all through this act, it's got loads of references to government finance acts. The amendment of the... Yeah, I actually screenshotted these, but when you upload it to Facebook, look at that. It's like a long scrolling screenshot. So they've become a bit blurred, some of these, because when you upload it, it doesn't really... you lose some quality. So yeah, I mean, it's got loads of government finance acts in it that have been adjusted and modified. Now, if you wanted to consult on that, who would you ask? You'd ask, like, if you wanted to consult on modifying acts of law which are about finance, particularly around the congestion charge in London, or about charging and things, or generally, finance of government, you get an attorney who did government finance, and just a man, Swift. So that is very, very interesting, that this act has got all these connections to the government finance acts, and Swift was working in government finance. Another interesting thing is also there's a little tiny bit in this act that talks about bylaws. Because they used to have all these bylaws around England, but it's a very, very modern act, this, and I'm like, you don't really get many acts talking about bylaws anymore. We don't really have them anymore, bylaws. And I just found it a bit odd to mention it. And as I read the word bylaws, I was thinking about, by, like, instead of like a law to bypass something or around something, I was thinking of it like goodbye, like when you wave and you say bye-bye, see you later. It's like bye-bye. And there is some poetic and artistic musing to it that the MPs do have a fondness for. And that is like, I imagine them saying bye-bye to the Magna Carta, Ancient Liberties of London, as if like, see you later, bye, bye-bye, Ancient Liberties. It was, bye-bye to those laws. I thought that had some irony to it, and I won't put it past them to have Blair to have put that in as one of his, his Lincoln's in musings, so that I noticed as well. But what's important to us actually is there's a section on parking charges and fines, but that's mainly for like if you like a penalty, like if you do something that you're not allowed to do, like break a law and get a penalty charge, and for parking fees. So what was the section now? This is actually it here. Right, so this is it here. This chapter here. There's workplace parking bays, and there's this road user charging. So this 295, sorry, it's 295. The other one, the other one was for that parking fines and fees. So 295. So this 295 road user charging. There is a schedule for it, but the schedule's got loads of meaning and interpretation of terms and words, which I don't think that's that important. But we can look at that another time. But we'll just click on this, right? So this road user charging, right? This is what the entire congestion charge is based on, and now Ulez. And look, there's not much to it. There's hardly anything there, right? There's not much there. We'll put it how it was original. I'm going to go on the original because that's how they made how they were going to do it. This is the original, right? And this is how when they enacted it to reckon that they could do it, right? So we've got to take into account, firstly, it says that it's got to be economical, right? Well, we know Ulez now is not economical for anyone who's got one of those cars, right? Because it's not economical to have to buy an entire new car. And it's not economical to pay those charges. And it's also not uniform with the other vehicles. So the car's breaking the law there for sure. I'd argue that out in court. That's one thing to argue on legislation that is breaking in the Act. And then we've got this. So, and they haven't repealed Magna Carta, Ancient Liberties of London, which is absolutely critical, right? They haven't even pretended to try and repeal it. So here, right, 295, and there's there's three provisions here, right? So we're going to look at this now. And we're going to see, are they actually saying that they can charge people in the Ancient Liberty of London when it says that there's a law, remember? So we know that there's a very old law in England that says that within the ancient area, City of London, you cannot charge people for travelling around on those roads, right? And in the 1700s,